Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of The Standard is the Standard. That's the BehindTheSteelCurtain.com flagship podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Hartman, editor of Behind the Steel Curtain, and joining me as always, longtime co-host Lance Williams. Lance, staying safe. How's it?
I'm doing well. I won't ask you about what I wanted to ask you about your appearance because I was told in the comments we need to get straight to the content. So let's get straight to it.
Who said that? Oh, I was waiting for the question about me shaving my face. That's what he was going to bring up. He was going to say, "Why did you shave your face?"
Yes. Yeah. So, well, screw that guy. Why did you shave your face? Because my comment with Jeff shaving his face and Jeff hit me back I was like, Jeff looks young and old simultaneously. And then Jeff said, I look smart and dumb simultaneously.
Smart and stupid.
Smart and stupid. So why did you shave?
Honestly, when spring rolls around all the way through fall, I just shave. I clean. I don't like the facial hair in the warmer months. We'll put it that way. I just did what it is. You know,
okay.
It's tough. It's tough times. My youngest daughter actually didn't even recognize me. For half of the day, she'd like run away, and she watched me shave. That's why I don't get it. She was in the bathroom. I'm shaving my face. I'm like, hey, look, yeah, I'm shaving. I don't get it. I thought you enlisted. No, not yet. Anyways,
camp like you were training. I don't know what are those people called, like new enlistees.
Well, I mean, if you're just joining the military, or if the draft were invoked, or what?
Or if you were like the combat guy, the drill instructor.
Call me G.I. Joe, G.I. Jeff is fine.
G.I. Jeff, JH21 G.I. Jeff program. Yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And Michael O'Malley asked, Jeff, are you golfing indoors in the backyard? I mean, my son has a putting green here in my office. I've been using that. It's killing me that the state of Maryland has shut down all their courses. It's driving me nuts. Today was a beautiful day, 75 degrees, sunny. Would have loved to have been on the course, but no, even a sport that has social distancing built into it can't go play. So there you go. But back home in West Virginia, they haven't shut down the courses yet. My dad's still playing 3-4 times a week, and he's calling me up and saying, "Oh, I shot 76 today." It's like, yeah, screw you, Dad. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what they say about, you know what Pittsburghers say about the great state of West Virginia.
You always say that. Oh man. And then I'll answer this because we're on the golf topic. Robert says, what do you think of the Masters going up against the Steelers? I'm sure you've heard, Lance, that golf they didn't cancel events. The British Open got canceled, but they're moving the Masters to November. Oh, my gosh. I did not want the Masters on Sunday. I'm hoping they do it Wednesday to Saturday. That's my hope. CBS is going to have to make a call because they cover the Masters Saturday and Sunday, and they also have the NFL. They're going to have to make a decision.
No, they'll show both. What they'll probably do is make you pay for one. They'll just make you pay for That's good old capitalism. A free event, they'll make you pay for it so you can get it on demand. Come on,
that's right. That's right.
Monetize that thing.
Reed Overhand chimes in, says, cool to hear me on the, I joined Chris Carter on the Locked On Steelers podcast last night. We talked about a lot of stuff, everything from the idiocy of Jameis Winston rumors to Terrell Edmonds and a couple others. But I was kind of excited that, I started thinking, Lance and we always text each other throughout the day. What are we going to talk about? What's the headline? And Lance thought of this one. He thought of this specific headline. I want to let you kind of introduce it and maybe provide some background, some depth to it so that people are like, what in the heck are they talking about? Now, I did ask you a question on Twitter, but we'll get to that in a second, Lance. Go ahead and explain what we're talking about.
I'm assuming that the headline is who's the most powerful figure, non-owner figure for the Steelers. And I guess I came up with it as I try to find the actual picture because there was an article that was done by Ed Bouchette, formerly of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, now of The Athletic. So I don't know if you guys see a lot of Ed's work. There was an article that he did that detailed a lot of what's going on with Ben Roethlisberger's rehab. A lot of nuggets in there, talking about how there's a chip in the football and how it measures spin rate. And so you can kind of get an accurate reading as to where his arm is. But there was an interesting part of the article that talked about Ben Roethlisberger and the relationship that he had with Lance Moore and how that connected him with Eric Ebron. And so let me read from here. It says, Ben says in the article, I was a big fan of Eric Ebron coming out of college. I was really impressed with him, thought he was a great football player. When I was with former Steelers receiver Lance Moore in Detroit, he told me how much you wanted me. And when I was coming out in free agency, I wanted to thank you. And it also goes on to talk about how Ben Roethlisberger mentioned his love for Ebron as a player to Mike Tomlin. And that made me think, just who has the most power non-owner in the organization? Because you can clearly see that there was a communication between the front office and Ben Roethlisberger in regards to Eric Ebron, and then Eric Ebron gets signed. So that made me think, who's the power player? Who has the most power when it comes to Colbert, Ben Roethlisberger, and or Mike Tomlin? And on top of the fact that you're talking about a player got a restructure while he was injured, it's going to have a salary cap hit of $41 million next year. And we've heard all the comments that Colbert had about Ben Roethlisberger last year about how he's the leader of the team and everyone should defer to him. So that got me thinking, who's the power player in that dynamic?
Well, before we get to my answer and even your answer, let's look at Twitter. I put this out on our Behind the Steel Curtain Twitter feed. That's at BT Steel Curtain. If you don't follow us, give us a follow. And the question was exactly what Lance said. Who is the most powerful non-owner in the Steelers organization? Now, as of when this is being recorded, we had a little shy of 500 votes. And not shockingly, Ben Roethlisberger is leading with 39% of the votes. Kevin Colbert is what's shocking to me, has 35% of the votes, with Mike Tomlin at 26%. Now, there were 4 comments. I'm a comment guy. I like to laugh at them. And so someone comments that it shouldn't be, but it's Ben. Someone said Yinzers are going to Yins. Someone said this is silly, it's Colbert. And then someone added that would be Mike Tomlin. So the comments on the tweet itself or the poll don't give us much information, but I was surprised that Colbert was second.
I'm not.
Were you at all?
No. I mean, the order is kind of where I think it is. I think when you look at Mike Tomlin, he's never criticized Colbert and or Ben Roethlisberger. I can't think of one time he's criticized either one of those guys publicly where he may have said, Colbert, I need better players. I want to shop for the groceries. He's never said anything like that. He's never said anything negative about Ben Roethlisberger to my recollection in a press conference. Now, he might be throwing erasers and throwing shit at Ben behind closed doors, and it might be rock and rolling in meetings or whatever. But I've never heard about any negative comment that he's made about Ben Roethlisberger. And it just seems to me, and also Tomlin has never, I don't believe, been completely in charge of hiring and firing all the coaches and coordinators. Now, am I right by that, Jeff? It seems as if he's never had the total control of his staff.
I see. I don't know. Like that's when I was trying to rank these personally. I don't know exactly how much of a role Mike Tomlin plays in all of this in terms of, like you said, coaching staff, free agent acquisitions, the decision on free agents, meaning to keep a player or to let him go. I have to think that he's been the head coach since 2007. He has his hand in everything. And no, he might not. He doesn't criticize Ben Roethlisberger, and he doesn't ever publicly say anything regarding to Kevin Colbert. I guess for me, I always felt that Colbert and Tomlin were more 50-50 when it came to certain decisions that are made within the organization. We're not even talking about Ben right now. If I'm just trying to figure out the two Tomlin Colbert tandem, did you say that if that's a marriage, it's more 50-50, or you're saying that it's more Colbert than Tomlin?
I'm thinking it's more Colbert than Tomlin.
Well, explain yourself. Like other than the lack of criticism on Tomlin's part, like what makes you think it's more Colbert than Tomlin?
So think about like other coaches who have had the level of success of Tomlin, and there aren't many. But think about maybe a Belichick. Well, he's in his own.
He is the GM.
He's in his own category. But think
Right.
of, say, Sean Payton. I'm trying to think of another coach that's had a lot of success. Andy Reid, that's now won a Super Bowl. When you think about control and the power player of the organization, you feel as if those guys are completely in control. That Peyton's completely in control, and so is Andy Reid. In fact, who is the GM for the Saints? Who is the GM for the Chiefs? I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you follow those teams,
it used to be Pioli. I don't know who it is.
I don't know who those gentlemen are. So that just tells you right there that the dynamic is controlled by the head coach, because you don't even know who those other people are. So when you think of the Steelers, you know Colbert. You know Kevin Colbert. Like people, I mean, his name rings out. I don't know if it's just the Steelers, but the dynamic isn't such where you have no idea who he is, which gives you the implication that coach might have more power than he does. So it just feels like, and also with not being able to control your coaching staff, it feels like the relationship between Colbert and Tomlin is collaborative. True, but it feels like Colbert still has more power than Tomlin. And it feels like Ben has the most power.
And that's crazy. I'm not disagreeing with anything that you said, by the way. I'm not disagreeing with your Colbert and Tomlin comments. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. But I'm not disagreeing with the fact that you said Ben Roethlisberger holds the ultimate trump card. And I agree. How that came to be, I have no idea.
You win.
We say it on the show all the time. Ryan Switzer, he did a radio interview with WDVE this morning, and you can go to Steelers.com and you can listen to it. It's about 11 minutes in length. And he said that Ryan Switzer has been coming to my house and working out, and we've been throwing the ball a little bit. He said, don't worry, we're not near each other. We're still social distancing and all this stuff. But I kept on thinking to myself, Switzer's making this team.
Of course.
He is making this team.
Of course. Of course. And that's why the Eric Ebron, I kind of thought of Switzer, the Mr. Electronic Football Man. And Ebron, it just came to me that Ben's vouch for Ebron. It just meant like, okay, we want to go get a tight end. Our quarterback has told me he wants Eric Ebron. We're going to go get Eric Ebron. Now, people might argue that away as just being smart, but that's control. That's power. You know, you say it and it happens. I mean, that's power. It's manifesting things. And so had he said, let's say Tyler Eifert, and they go out and get Tyler Eifert, you know, it's the power that he has. It's the power to influence the ultimate decision, because I'll guarantee you, Ben saying that he wanted Eric Ebron factored into it.
Well, yeah. And I totally 100% believe that if you're going to bring in someone that's an offensive player, especially a pass catching player like a tight end or a receiver, well, you're going to want to get the quarterback's input. I think that's natural. You know, I don't think that there's anything out of the norm there, but I think we have seen it before where Ben will have his players that he likes. And because of that, they end up making the team. And it's because you want to keep number 7 happy. And I guess what's really kind of sticking in the back of my head now is, I said this to Chris Carter last night on his show. If the Steelers are truly winning now, you can't always succumb to Ben Roethlisberger. For instance, if Ryan Switzer is going to do nothing but take up a roster spot, you got to let him go. And you got to say, you know what, Ben, we're trying to win. You can throw the ball to somebody else. I guess it won't happen. I understand that. But at the same time, that's the way I think.
I love the comment from Frank Webb lives. Switzer lives in Ben's beard free of charge. That is a great one. I will say this. I think it's dangerous to allow players to have too much control, particularly if they've never won and have not been accomplished. I think at this point, I don't mind Ben having the majority of the control, because it's only for 2 more seasons, this year and next year, presumably. and because he's been so successful and they've won a lot. I don't think the Steelers would allow any other player to have as much control as Ben. Also, you look at Ben's style of play. It almost feels at times that he doesn't rein, like Tomlin doesn't rein Ben in from a playing style perspective. There are times when Ben is off the rails, when he's far too aggressive and he's being too much of the gunslinger. And, it's that weird room of how much room do I want to give him to do his thing? I trust him. He's my guy. How much do I want to pull back? Where's the nuance in that? But it just feels like Ben has free reign to be Ben, do Ben, and be Ben.
He's won 2 Super Bowls. Now, I do want to mention this. Braden Miller says, doesn't Colbert have the final say when they draft? No. You know who has the final say? Is the man who writes the checks. Art Rooney is in that war room, and he's the one that will say, okay, I never realized this, and I'm not sure if his dad, Dan, or even his dad, Art, the chief, was as big a part. From what I've read, and Lance, correct me if I'm wrong, the chief did not have his hands involved in everything. He bought the team. He tried to put pieces in place and stuff like that. It was Dan that really started to get involved, and he was a part of that process before he took over the team when his dad died. Art Rooney II is very much a part of this process. He's at every practice. He's in every single meeting leading up to this draft. He knows the prospects. And what really struck me was when they asked Art Rooney about when they traded the first-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick. And he said, that was one that took me a lot of time before I was okay with it. He said, I did a lot of pacing in my office. I'm thinking, this guy, he is the one that has the final say. It's not Tomlin. It's not Colbert. It's the man who signs the checks. Isn't he from the North Side? No, I'm saying.
Yes, he is. He's a North Sider, proud North Sider. Yes, he is, by CCAC. Ultimately, you write the checks. You have all the power, and but it's kind of scary that he's that involved. I don't know what his football acumen is. I'm just have the perspective more so of, my input is the people that I put in charge. They're the experts. I'm going to allow them the room and freedom to do what they do. And I'm sure that they do. However, giving up a first round draft pick is a decision where it should involve the owner's input. Okay, this is what we want to do. We want to give up a first rounder. This is how we want to roll. And so you got to get buy-in on some of those decisions. I'm sure that he doesn't care about, trading for a seventh rounder. Correct. Well, I'm not even going to mention the guy's name because I'm going to get the name wrong. Give me the name of the trade that the Steelers, the defensive tackle that they traded for.
Chris Wormley?
Wormley for the seventh. I'm sure he's like, whatever, man. I'm drinking coffee, man. If you want to get Wormley for a seventh round or whatever, dog, like whatever, dog. Like, okay, like we're not, like, I'm sure they're not even asking him about that. It's just Wormley. He's a body. But when it comes to big contract and or first round compensation, second round, I'm sure they're running that up the flagpole. But in terms of non-ownership, when you have the GM, the de facto GM, basically vouch for you and say it's your team and nobody should be questioning your leadership, that you need to follow him and he'll guide you to the promised land where there's manna and honey. When somebody says that, who has the control. Who has the control. He didn't even say the coach. He didn't say fall in line with the coach and the coach is the leader and the coach will get you there. No, he said the quarterback. He said Big Ben. He didn't say Tomlin. And Tomlin had nothing to say about it one way or another, that if he were wrong or not. So I think I think Twitter got it right. I think it's Ben, Colbert, then Tomlin. What was the percentage on Tomlin's vote?
It was 29% last I checked.
Oh, so it's fairly tight, like 29, 35, 39.
It was close. Yeah. I don't want anyone to construe this conversation that we're having for us being upset or disgruntled about this. And it's just the nature of the beast. and they've been successful under Mike Tomlin, and no one is complaining about that. So I just want to make that very clear and make a blanket statement. So this is a good topic. I like
let me just say one thing too
and
about the staff is, even when Tomlin came in, the way the Steelers did it wasn't typical of what typically happens. They hired a young coach that wasn't on the radar, but when they brought him in, they made sure he maintained the staff. Said, they're like, look, you can't come in here and clean out. You've got to coach with the staff that you have. And, that's kneecapping you as soon as you come in to a certain extent. So you have to have a certain personality to be able to swallow your pride and roll with it. And I'm sure that was communicated in the interview process. And he said the right things, obviously. And the Steelers have since won a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. So real quick, take a quick sidebar here and mention that you want to know if you can help the program. Start by liking this show. If you're watching live on YouTube and you're in the live chat, just close out the live chat, hit the thumbs up button, and then go back to the live chat. Takes literally 2 seconds, but really helps us out. We appreciate all the help on all of our shows. And if you're in audio platform, by all means, iTunes especially, give us a 5-star rating, leave us a good comment. That all helps. I was trying to figure out how to get rid of some comments, because if you go all the way back, man, to those Blog Talk Radio days, we used to get absolutely hammered in terms of, all the stuff, horrible sound quality and stuff. So Lance will be gone. He'll be right back. There you go. I want to bring something up to the live chat. Anyone see these Atlanta Falcon uniforms and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniforms? Like, that's what I wanted to talk about. This Lance wasn't too keen on it anyway, so he's got to run. He'll be right back. These teams bring out these new uniforms all the time. I don't think the Buccaneers, they pump this up for months. It doesn't even look that different than their old uniforms. Like, there's nothing that, unless you're going creamsicle Tampa Bay, I don't want to hear about it, period. Like, I don't want to hear about it at all. Creamsicles were the best. Atlanta Falcons, they come and they've got like ATL on the front in some of their jerseys. I don't know. I kind of agree with Michael O'Malley. Since Nike took over the uniforms, he said that they're like college uniforms, that Nike is definitely putting their spin on it. Now, here's the thing. I want you on the live chat to answer this question, because I wrote this article for the website earlier today. When I see all these new uniforms come out, I'm super, super thankful that the Steelers have one of those classic looks. You know what I mean? If it gets changed, if it gets altered, it's not going to be major. The most major thing that you would see is a throwback uniform, which we've seen plenty of those, or a color rush uniform, which, by the way, the Steelers color rush uniforms are absolutely awesome. I was very hesitant about those color rush uniforms because I didn't know. There were people saying that it was going to be yellow, like a all yellow. That would be horrible. But no, they went all black. The blackout's awesome. I don't think anyone's disagreeing there. But if you take out the italicized numbers, which started in 97 is when they decided to go from the block numbers to the italicized numbers. For those that don't know, the reason they did that was to match the numbers on the helmet, the stickers they used for their numbers on their helmet. And they put the logo, the Steelers logo, on the top left chest of the jersey. Okay. Is there anything you would change? And Lance, you're back. We'll ask you this question. And also in the live chat. Is there anything you would change about the Steelers uniforms? I'm not talking throwbacks, not talking color rush, outside of the numbers. So we all know that a lot of people want to go back to the classic block numbers. We know that. I don't want to hear that. I want to know, what would you change? Go ahead, Lance.
I want to go all white like the 60s. I want to go white pants and a white top.
Well, so that would be like a throwback for you.
Yes, I want to go all white. I want to go all white with the black helmets.
But would you change anything about their day in, week in and week out uniforms?
No. And I had to write a note to myself to make sure I say this correctly. That teams that don't consistently win change uniforms.
Yeah.
And the reason why they change uniforms is they have to change the narrative around the fact that they suck. And typically they don't even change to the correct uniforms. So like if you're Tampa Bay, it has to be the creamsicle joints.
That's what I just said.
It has to be. You got to go with the Leroy Selman creamsicle joints, man. The Hugh Green joints. When Hugh Green used to have a creamsicle showing the abs. I mean, you got to go with the creamsicles. They went with the ugly Derek Brooks beat the Raider uniforms and then the all pewter. Now, I have a friend that I went to school with at Cal, Chidi Iwuanatu, that played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, was defensive lineman with Warren Sapp. He loves it, of course, because that was the team, that was the uniform that they won a championship with. So he loves the return to that uniform, and he specifically loves the all pewter joints, but it has to be the creamsicles. But look, if you're changing uniforms, that just means you suck. I mean, pretty much.
No, I'm not disagreeing. Let me ask you this question. If you give me your top 5 most iconic jerseys, uniforms in the NFL.
Okay, I'm going to go with number 1 is the San Diego Superchargers, the baby blues. The San Diego Supercharger baby blues are classic.
Okay. Okay.
The Pittsburgh, the black and gold Pittsburgh jersey is classic. The black Raider jersey is classic.
Yep.
The white Raider jersey is classic. Not the white Raider jersey. The white Dallas Cowboy jersey is classic. The Roger Staubach one is classic. I'm gonna give you 2 more. The Green Bay Packer one is classic, and that blue Chicago Bears one is classic. Those are the classic ones. I'm not going to include that team up north, although they've had a fantastic decade. I'm not going to throw that one in. Honorable mention.
Their uniforms are awful.
The uniforms are awful. Let me give you an honorable mention so I can give some love to the wife who celebrated her golden birthday this week. The red or the 49er red, that red 49er jersey with the gold pants. Okay. That classic Joe Montana 49er uniform. Those are my classic ones. The creamsicles are just sweet too, although they were garbage in those uniforms. The creamsicles were sweet too. Atlanta Falcons had some sweet ones. I'm just going some sweet jerseys here. Atlanta Falcons has some sweet ones. Also, the Houston Oilers baby blue joints were nice with Earl Campbell used to wear. I like those too.
Well, that's when they had the Love Them Blues. That's what they used to save down in Houston and all that. So
and they had the oil tanker on the white helmet. Mm-hmm. Those were classic. Those were classic
with the red and blue stripes down the middle.
Yes, and Donnie
those were good uniforms.
And Donnie Shell, knocked off like a lot of years off of Earl's life.
Now, I agree with all the classics. I'm not sure I would put the Chargers in the classics. I don't like teams that have changed a lot. Like I thought about the Giants. The Giants have changed a bunch. They went from the NY on the helmet to then it says Giants on the side. They've gone to the gray pants, back to the white. Like that's a lot of change. And the Chargers have done the same. They went from the powder blues or baby blue, whatever you want to call it, to the dark. The Steelers might have changed their numbers, but they're still always that same black and gold. Go ahead.
You know what? A classic uni I forgot was the Namath Jets uni. That uni was sweet.
They've changed a lot too.
But I'm going to tell you, the worst jersey of all time is the Richie Kotite Jets uniform. That uniform and all the Bengals iterations of their uniforms have been awful, and the Browns. That brown and orange is awful. Every iteration of that is terrible. Hence, they're the Bungles.
I guess when you think about how you're a Bengal, so you want to use the tiger stripes, there's really only so much you can do. Like the helmets, I think, are atrocious. They put the stripes on the pants too. It's bad. It's bad. But here, last question before we move on from the jersey talk. On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely awesome, 1 being meh, don't really like it, I actually hate it. Where do you put the Steelers color rush jerseys and uniforms on that scale from 1 to 10?
The black ones?
Black on black, blackout.
I'm going to put those at a 9.5.
Okay.
Those are sweet.
You love them.
I love those. And the material, if you've ever had one, is sweet, but I don't have one anymore because mine was Mr. 3rd and 5th, Mr. Gummy Richards.
I still can wear mine.
So I had to get rid of my color rush. I should get another one on the back. I have Gummy Richards, have a 3 in the front and a 5 in the back, and have Mr. That'd be a great customized jersey.
See, to me, the Steelers last year, when they decided they were going to do block numbers for their throwback, I was like, this is the beginning of the end for the italicized numbers. I felt the same way. I don't know if you followed closely enough, but in 2009, when the Pittsburgh Penguins won the Stanley Cup, they beat the Detroit Red Wings in 7 games. It was their Vegas gold. And it was the next year after that, they did a throwback night to the 90s, and they wore that classic, the same black and gold you see with the Pirates and the Steelers. And fans were just enamored with them. Like, they were like, oh my gosh, like to see those guys skating around, it brought back memories of Ron Francis and Jaromir Jagr and Mario Lemieux and Kevin Stevens. I can rattle off the whole team. I'm not going to do that. Next, now what are their everyday jerseys? They went back to black and gold. So yeah. I could see the Steelers eventually going back to the block numbers because fans have been clamoring for that for so long. I just don't know what other throwback other than the white pants that you mentioned. Like, I don't know what they really don't have many other options.
I'd go all white. I'd go all white. Who was the Pittsburgh Penguin guy from those teams that was like the party dude that was wild? Was it Ron Francis?
Which team?
From the 90s, that team with Jagr and Lemieux that won the 17 in a row.
The old 2-9er that used to, the one that when they won the cup, he said,
I don't think
this cup down by the river. And
I don't think they won the cup because they didn't win the cup the year that they won the 17 in a row, did they?
No, I don't think
they lost to the Islanders, right?
Yeah.
Who was the party guy? Who was the party guy on that team?
I don't know, man.
I think there's
been a lot of party guys.
One of those guys I used to see out all the time, and I used to always wonder, like, how is this dude playing hockey? He's in the club. He's out with me. How's he out? Like, he's on the South Side on Carson Street, like drinking a ton. Like, maybe that's what made him so good. His body could absorb hits because he was liquored up by the time he got back to the ice.
I don't know. The old 2-9er that used to always, that's when they won the cup. He's standing there and he goes, let's take this cup down to the river and let's party all summer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's nuts. All right. Get away from the Penguins talk for a second. Crazy Chris, $1.99. He said, hey, Jeff, I'm looking forward to the JH21 program. Believe it or not, I've started to put my Instagram handle underneath my picture on YouTube. And I've actually had several Steeler fans hit me up on Instagram and wanting to, I am a personal trainer. I'm an online coach and trainer, and they've actually hit me up about getting some services, and I appreciate that 100%. So, man, I'm looking forward to it too. I also want to say Snowman. I don't know if he's in the live chat. I haven't seen him yet. I want to apologize because our show on Sunday, he put in a $2 super chat, and he asked the question about Mike Tomlin's wife is making masks and she is selling them or giving them away. And he was trying to find out how to get them. I skipped over it because we were in the middle of talking about Terrell Edmonds and I forgot about it. I apologize about that. Our rule is that if you give us money to a super chat, we're going to bring it up. I'm not sure where that is, where you can, I'm sure that Steelers.com or someone has information as to where you can help with that project to get some of those masks that she's making out to those that need them. So we
need some BTSC masks. That will do better than the Devlin Duck Hodges t-shirts.
Yeah. Those did not have a good shelf life. We'll put it that way. And the other thing I want to talk about with Lance before we get to the questions, our Twitter questions, which we have a couple, actually several to get to, is they came out with an all-decade team. And it was kind of really unceremonious. Like there wasn't a lot of fanfare around it. 2 Steelers made the all-decade team. It was Marquise Pouncey at center and former Mr. 3rd and 5th Gummy Richards, Mr. Antonio Brown. Lance, what were your thoughts? Did anyone get snubbed in your opinion, or were you okay with those 2 guys?
Yeah, I was okay with those 2 guys. I mean, Gummy Richards, Mr. 3rd and 5th. I mean, as much as we talk about him and don't use his name and the fact that me and Jeff have been blocked by Mr. Gummy Richards. I mean, he's a well of a player when he's actually playing. His stretch for the Steelers is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's just putting up epic numbers. I'll tell you another wide receiver kind of in that era put up vicious numbers like that was Wes Welker. Wes Welker had like a 5-6 year run where he just put up monstrous numbers. But I was kind of surprised by Pouncey. It's funny, like PFF doesn't think Pouncey's a very good player, But everyone else thinks Pouncey's a very good player. But basically, for the most part, if you make an all-decade team, except if you're Alan Faneca, that's pretty much a shoe-in for you making it to the Hall of Fame. So I would think that what that says, and it may not be that case for Mr. Third and Fifth because of his antics off the field, but it feels like Maurkice Pouncey is a guy that's going to make the Hall of Fame.
I mean, he plays a position. Centers are typically a little bit more highlighted when it comes to, those.
Especially.
Well, yeah, especially. I mean, you think about it. You get Webster, Dawson, both in the Hall of Fame. I think Pouncey will follow suit. I got it. And Antonio Brown, like you said, unless his off-field issues, heck, Terrell Owens got in.
Yeah, but Terrell is not as. I mean, this other guy, Gummy, is on a different. That's another nickname. Instead of Gummy Rich, just call him Gummy. Gummy. Gummy's. His stuff is. Gummy is. He's a different type of crazy. Terrell Owens is just really self-absorbed, but Gummy is also violent. His interactions with women and stuff like that. He's throwing furniture over balconies, almost hitting people. Gummy's kind of off. Mr. Gummy R, Mr. GR.
Now here's a good question from Sixburg 6. I'll put it on the screen. Larry Fitzgerald or Brown in their prime? Who you taking?
I'm going to go Larry Fitzgerald.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Fitz.
I'll go the other side. Yeah, but Antonio Brown was a freak. He was a freak. How many times in 2017, I believe, did that guy almost single-handedly win a game with some ridiculous sideline catch? I'll never forget the game against Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers was not playing. I think it was Sunday Night Football. Brent Hundley was a quarterback for the Packers.
Yeah.
The Steelers needed a drive to get a field goal to win it. That catch was one of the most ridiculous catches I've ever seen. You watched it live and said, damn it, he's out of bounds.
Yeah, but he wasn't. Mr. Gummy Toe Taps. Gummy Toe Taps.
That's what really ticks me off about him, man. And I've said it a million times. I'll say it again because I get so frustrated. He was so good. And he could still be so good.
I've never seen
a self-absorbed idiot.
Strike me with this. Have you ever seen Larry Fitz drop a pass?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Exactly. Like, I've never seen him drop a pass. I can't imagine what his numbers would be had he played with a quarterback the caliber of Ben Roethlisberger for a majority of his career. And his numbers are absolutely stupid as they are. They're stupid anyway. Just imagine what his run would be if he played with Ben for a decade. Just absolute bonkers. And I've never seen him drop a pass ever.
With hindsight being 2020, I remember when Mr. Gummy Richards was forcing his way out of town. We all kind of said that Antonio Brown made Ben Roethlisberger. You still believe that? Or do you think a lot of that was Ben in the fact that Antonio Brown had a quarterback like Ben throwing him the ball?
It's symbiotic. If anything, it's going to be more so quarterbacks make receivers because they're controlling everything. They got the ball in their hand, but it's symbiotic. Guys got to get open and the ball has to get delivered. But, the one thing about quarterbacks, it's just symbiotic, man. Ben Roethlisberger is not Ben Roethlisberger. He goes out there with garbage receivers. He just isn't. It just works together. And that was, where you got a great band and you got a great singer. It just works. Peanut butter and jelly, mac and cheese, shrimp and grits. It's just good combinations. They were a good combination. Unfortunately, their personalities clashed, which isn't surprising given the more you know about Mr. Gummy Richards and all that we know about Ben Roethlisberger. It makes sense. It's actually surprising that it worked for that long once the curtain has been pulled back for both individuals. It goes to how good the coach was in managing that combustible relationship for the amount of time that he did.
You're right. You're absolutely right. That was a combustible relationship. We'll put it that way. So you ready to dig into this mailbag here and get a little Twitter Q&A going?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. So Lori, Steelers Gal 55, she says, how many games do you think it will take Ben to be back to 2018 Ben? Or even a better Ben? he's always rusty at the beginning of the season. Now I think she's making the assumption that he's going to be healthy, that he's going to be capable. Okay. So we're getting that out of the way. He missed almost all of 2019. How long are you willing to give him as in a grace period before you say, all right, let's get this show on the road? Like, we got to start seeing some better play. How many games are you thinking?
And I'm digging Frank Webb lives, Gummy and Richard, cereal and milk. That's great. Frank is hot tonight. I'm going to give him an entire season. I'm going to give him an entire season. I'm going to give him that you might not see the normal Ben until later in the season, just because he has to learn Deontay Johnson. I mean, a lot of this, like, as much as we think you plug them in, they're the same, it all works. He's a new guy with a new arm. The wide receivers are different players. They've gotten better. They have to get reacclimated with themselves. I mean, they have to develop a rhythm again. And I think from that article about Ben's rehab, I mean, there's no OTAs, and that's going to hurt. There's no OTAs. They're not going to practice until training camp. So they've got to build that chemistry again when the bullets start flying. And a lot of it has to do with Ben. When the bullets start flying, will doubt creep in his mind as to what his physical ability is. Can he take the hits? Can he still make the throws? So I'm giving it a while. I'm giving it a while. Like, people are going to have to lift him up and make some plays. I'm giving it a while. I don't expect to see the swashbuckler bionic Big Ben till late in the season, to when he started to get a rhythm. But I'm thinking it could take a while, a lot longer than shorter.
Well, the funny thing is it's not funny, but you brought it up, is that the coronavirus COVID-19 situation is not going to help. It could help by the fact that Roethlisberger has openly said that now they can take his rehabilitation a little bit slower. That's going to be beneficial for him, especially long-term. But at the same time, when it comes to meshing with your receivers and learning what their tendencies are, that hurts. Now, the NFL has not said, like, OTA phase 1, which is their strength and conditioning phase, has been basically, you got to do it at home. The coaches can still communicate with players. They can send out workouts and nutrition, stuff like that. But they haven't made a decision on the other OTAs. They're still playing it by ear. So I don't think there's going to be OTAs. I would be shocked if there's mandatory minicamp. I agree with what you said. The first time we're going to see Ben.
Wes is tough. Wes said 2 games. Wes is tough.
I would say 4. And Wes said 2 games because he said, if the whole win now thing, you can't give him long term. You gotta play well out the gate. You gotta get off to a better start. The Steelers were 0-4, 0-3 this past season. It can't start off that way.
If I'm a defensive coordinator, you know what I'm going to do to Ben? I'm going to heat Ben up. I'm going to see if I can break his mechanics, and if I can get into his head by trying to put a lot of heat on him and put a lot of hits on him. I want to see if I can get into his noggin and put a physical beating on him early to see if he's going to hold up. I want to play the physical mental game with Ben to see where he is, because football is a macho sport for macho dudes. And I'm going to see if he's macho still, or if he's going to, kind of be rubbing that elbow like, can I take these hits? I'm going to put some hits on him to see.
Okay. Next question from IDK. He said, will James Conner be back next season if we draft a running back in the second round? I think I know where you're going to go with this, but I'll let you answer it on your own.
James Conner will be back if they draft a running back, because he's cheap. They have him under contract, and they'll just let him play his year out. And
I think he's saying after this season.
No.
Okay, that's okay.
Not at all. No,
I agree. If they draft a running back in this year's draft, this will be James Conner's last year in Pittsburgh.
And even if they don't, it'll be his last season. I think he's he's out of there. I think just the way you do running backs now is you draft them, then you get rid of them. You draft them, they play one contract, you get them for 5 years for cheap, then you replace them.
Yeah. Jason says, if they go running back in the draft, who is the pick?
I'm just going to go with the Dobbins pick. That's the only running back I know in the draft. I know two. I know three. The Dobbins guy, the Wisconsin guy, and the LSU guy. Those are the three guys that I know.
Your three guys, your three amigos there, your three running back amigos. If any one of those three players is on the board when the Steelers pick at number 49, are you saying they got to take one of those guys?
Yes. I think they should take a running back.
And that brings us to our next question from Jam, ! He says, who leaves the running back room if we draft one? So let's say they do draft one of your three amigos. Who do they push out?
Jalen Samuels. It'll be Jalen Samuels.
Or Kareth White. I feel
think
like
they'll keep Kareth White because Kareth White can do kickoff returns if they need a kickoff returner. Although they kick it, man,
they don't need a kickoff returner. They got 10. They got Switzer. He's making the team.
You are correct.
He's making the
team. So it will be Kareth White. And when you look at the 3 Ps, price, pedigree, and performance, Jalen Samuels' protection is that he was drafted, and Kareth White was not. So they'll give a drafted player another chance. And he's cheap. And so he's depth. They'll give him another chance. And you're right. The Mr. Electronic Football Man, Ryan Switzer, will be on the roster. And when I say Mr. Electronic Football Man, I am dating myself. I'm 49 years of age. I grew up in the 70s playing electronic football men, where you had the electronic football field, you had the little tiny men that you put on the field, you hit the power button and it went, and they didn't move anywhere. Sometimes they would go in a complete circle, they couldn't move, they weren't fast. That's why Ryan Switzer, do the visual, go to YouTube if you don't know what we're talking about, put electronic football men and watch the video. And when you go to the next show tomorrow, you will crack your ass up because it is absolutely accurate. He is Mr. Electronic Football Man.
Yeah, nah, he's not joking. So, all right, next question from Braden. I don't know if you have do you have your spreadsheet up from last year?
For
stats, offensive statistics. I want to see how many combined touchdowns the wide receivers had in 2019.
I can look that up. And one of the guys, there's a chat in a live thread that a guy said he actually still has an electronic football set. So he knows absolutely. While I'm looking this up, let me ask you, Jeff, what's your thought on the Steelers official 2020 draft hat? Since we talked about some Steelers stuff. In terms of and we talked about uniforms.
I actually liked it. I didn't think it was that bad. It wasn't super eye popping. It's all black hat. It's just kind of got the outline of the logo. If you haven't seen it, it was sharp. It's better than what I've seen in the past few years, but it's better than the one I think it was Devin Bush. It had the line down the middle. I think you actually said you liked that hat.
No,
it kind of looked like the city crest. I was like, I don't like that.
There was a hat I sent you. I sent you a picture of a hat the other day that I kind of liked. It didn't have any logo. I hate ESPN stats. They don't do this. They don't do this easily. Let's just say this. I'm confident enough to say that the Steelers wide receivers had 10 or fewer touchdowns, because the quarterbacks as a total threw for 18 touchdowns. So when you look at the high total for touchdowns in terms of rushing was 4 for James Conner. Here we go. For touchdowns, the Steeler wide receivers, James Washington had 3. Deontay Johnson had 5. Juju had 3. So I'm just going to total those guys up. That's 11. That's terrible. Ugh, that's painful. But, they only had 18 passing touchdowns for the season. Wow.
That's okay, so the question from Braden on Twitter is, how many combined touchdowns will the wide receivers get if Ben is healthy this season? So if they had 11 in 2019 with Mason Rudolph and with Devlin Duck Hodges at quarterback, how many do you think they have if Ben stays healthy?
So let's see. I'm going to go to the 2018 season. And that's the year when Mr. Third and Fifth led the National Football League in receiving touchdowns. So if you look at that year, Juju and Antonio Brown combined for 22 touchdowns. James Washington had one, so that's 23. Eli Rogers didn't have one. So they had 35 passing touchdowns. Alejandro Villanueva actually had a touchdown pass that year. So
Chris Boswell.
Yes. So with them having 23, I'm going to say 18.
I was gonna say 20. So I think it's gonna be significantly better.
Yeah, I'll say 19. Just to be different.
Okay. All right. So there you go. That's a good question. All right. Let's hear. At Aldridge Cage says, will our special teams be better? Punting and returning punts is terrible. What can we do to fix special teams? Barry and Switzer and Danny Smith are all terrible. This is a guy after my own heart, man.
I have no expectation that the Steelers special teams will be better. I mean, the only way it'll be better is if the wide receiver that I think they're going to draft is a good return player. Other than that, you're not going to get anything in the return game. Have no expectations for
it. I mean, you're going to hate when I say this. Adding a guy like Derek Watt can help with your coverage.
Yeah.
And he can help. Yeah. He's a special teams ace. That's why they paid him the big bucks. I know that's why Lance was all on board with that signing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Danny Smith is good at dialing up pressure. The Steelers special teams are good for like a punt block once a year, but ultimately I don't even mind if they don't have good returns. Like Deontay Johnson's punt return for a touchdown was electrifying in Arizona last year. I don't need that. Just don't get penalized every time they kick the ball. Like that's all I want.
Yes, how about that?
I don't want to see a punt that gets fair caught at the 35-yard line or at the 40, and you're thinking, all right, some good field position. Holding on the play, 10-yard penalty. Now you're bumped back into your own end. You're thinking, dang, there goes the good field position.
You know, that's a good stat geek. That's a good stat geek topic. Like how much of an impact does getting a penalty on a punt return on the receiving of a punt impact your ability to score? So if you look at your drive scoring stats, what's the percentage of those that didn't start with a special teams punt penalty? That'd be interesting to stat. I suspect that getting a penalty when you're receiving a punt has a pretty huge negative impact on your ability to score. But I don't know to what extent, but I think it probably has a significant impact.
Probably. I don't even know how you'd find that statistic, to be honest with you, but oh well. So, all right.
Dave can find it.
What's up?
He's the Oracle. Dave can find it. He's the Oracle.
He's fine. He'll find it.
He's listening right now going, let me go find that little brosco. He can find it. See, he's in here. See, you've been tasked, little brosco. So you have plenty of time. Go ahead and find out with a fancy algorithm or something.
All right, Lance, I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else for the good of the order?
No, I do not, other than, hey, the nation, let's take care of the nation. Let's make sure we are taking care of each other and being responsible and doing what we need to do in regards to social distancing and or anything else that your local municipality is telling you or to do. Make sure you do that. Make sure you take care of the nation takes care of the nation. So we can do what we love to do in the fall, and that's watch football. So if you guys don't do what you are supposed to be doing, we will not be watching football in the fall. Well, no, I'll take that back. The NFL will be played regardless of if you're there or not. So what I should say is if you're not taking care of what you're supposed to be doing, you will not be attending a game. Those tickets will not be good, but the NFL will be played in the fall, whether it's with you or not. So if you want to be at the games, make sure you social distance, wear your mask, do whatever, and you'll be there in the fall.
There you go. Sixburg 6 gives us $2. We appreciate that as always. and all the support. We appreciate you. We appreciate you all. Hope you stay safe. Lance, why don't you send us out?
And as always, Steeler Nation, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe and stay healthy.
That's right. Stay strong, everybody. We'll see you next week for another episode of The Standard